Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new game called Raging Loop. Well, it's not brand new, but apparently this is a sleeper cult classic. Which blows my mind because I've been trying to find a new visual novel to play and this one just came out of nowhere. And people are raving about this game. It is insane how many people love this game. This is also another murder mystery kind of wolf game style game, so I'm really excited. Full disclosure, they have asked that people who stream it don't show the entire game, so there will be a point where I will stop playing this, which kind of sucks, but hopefully by that point you're encouraged to try and play the game yourself, so just think of it as a teaser. So until then, let's get started. Beyond the pockets of mist and hazes of blood, at the end of the ever-repeating despair and grief, please come and witness the truth of the werewolf village with your own two eyes. I think this is May 11th, a Sunday. I closed in on the side of the road and killed the engine. It was steeper than I thought. My bike was on the verge of giving out, so I pushed down and deployed the kickstand. Welp, I'm lost. Maybe taking a ride down an unknown road with no sat-nav on me wasn't such a good idea. Do you mean like GPS? I just follow the road so I'd figure I wouldn't get lost, but now I was in some deep shit. No, cool it. This isn't a big deal. I sighed, took note of the fact that I had gotten lost in my pocket journal, and then pulled out a map. Suddenly, a rush of memories flooded into my mind. Yeah, so there's a key mechanic in this game where you kind of can go back and unlock dialogue options from what I understood. But I don't have any keys yet, so we'll just forget it. I somehow kept myself from remembering those things. After all, I'd gone on this trip to forget. Ugh. Haruaki Fusaishi. Those are both horrible names. I'm just gonna call him Haru. Enough of that. I gotta focus on what's happening right now. Life is simple, just like this road. It's dark and there aren't any guides, but that means all you gotta think about is whether you go forward or back. Going back wasn't an option in this case, so I just moved forward. Still, I wanted to know where I was, at least, so I looked down at my map. It was all Greek to me. Last time I'd seen a sign, it was still light out, meaning that I'd gotten lost after the sun had set. Sure, it was my own fault for just guessing which intersections I'd been passing through, and that it had taken me 2 hours to conclude I was lost. Crazy to think that just 2 hours of aimless driving got me almost completely surrounded by mountains. They extended as far as the eye could see. If you flipped this scenery upside down and shook it, it's unlikely even a shred of civilization would tumble out. Besides the asphalt below, my sweet ride, and the lamppost above, the first one in a while, mind you, there is nothing man-made here. The pocket map I had wasn't detailed enough for me to figure out where I was. Guess I'll just keep driving. I'd go as far as I could. Worst comes to worst, I could just camp at the side of the road. Are we trying to go somewhere in particular? 2 hours later, I deeply regretted ever thinking that. Basically, camping wasn't an option. This mountain road has no side to camp on. A dump truck I'd passed by barely even fit on it. I'd also had my first close encounters with wild forest animals. I'd already seen 2 boars and 3 deer in those 2 hours alone. Well, the deer aren't gonna mess with you. The boars, though, they'll eat you. One of the deer had run parallel to my bike while intently staring at me, and I had no idea what to think of that. Nope, that is very unusual deer behavior. I felt like it could smell my fear and did it just to make it worse. How dare the thing do that to a human? We're the kings of this planet. Damn it. We're the kings of this planet, damn it. I'd have to remember to eat some venison once I came back to civilization. Anyway, camping out here was a bad idea. I'd end up as either roadkill or animal food. And yet, I didn't back out. Why? Because I'm a pretty warped sort of guy, and I won't pretend otherwise. That was actually the reason why my once comfortable relationship had gone awry, and why I'd gone on this stupid trip. Did we get dumped? Still, despite acknowledging that, I chose to keep moving forward. It wasn't like I'd find a place to stay if I went back. I was actually starting to think that this experience might make a good conversation piece sometime down the road. It was really getting late at this point. Where would these roads take me anyway? It'd probably be disappointing. Soon enough, the road became flat. I was out of the mountain pass. The forest remained abundant, though, so I still didn't see much. Even so, the street lights and signs were enough to make me feel like I was again nearing civilization. Was street lights the right expression for lights in a forest? I'd have to look that up. As the road grew less rugged, I realized just how exhausted I was. All this bike handling had left my hands really sore, too. I really had to rest. Suddenly, I saw something unexpected. Powerful, colorful, artificial lights. A convenience store? Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It had alcohol and tobacco. It was next to an intersection between the road I was on and another, even thinner road that could probably support only a single car. The sea of trees ended, giving room for the majestic child of our consumerist society. Yeah, that was an exaggeration. Apparently even a damn store was a big deal for someone who just stepped out of the wild. It was called Freshmark. I'd seen several of them a few times during the day. It was probably a local franchise. The building didn't look all that old. At least, the parking lot looked a lot smoother compared to the roads. This was a pretty weird place to build something like that, though. Was I close to a settlement, or did they actually make a profit off of lost travelers? I just asked that or something. A local shopkeeper was bound to know what was around these parts. Not to mention, I was thirsty. I was welcomed by a weird chime sound. It looked like a normal convenience store. There were goods on the shelves, a counter on the left, and... Whoa. The worker at the counter was so mean-looking, it was scary. She was so imposing, I wouldn't have doubted if someone told me she was in charge of some ladies' army corps. Hey. Was that supposed to be a greeting? It was so damn cold, it actually gave me chills. Was this store shadier than it appeared? Was I about to be stupidly overcharged? Was this how this place made a profit? By taking advantage of lost people and basically beating them out of their money? Shit, that was scary. Clearly, the Wonderland had only just begun. Woohoo! I sure was excited for the beating. I grew more nervous and less enthusiastic by the second. I braced myself, but she just looked down at a magazine in her hands. Oh, so she was just a slacker. Slightly disappointed, I walked around the store. It was about what you'd expect. There was a small shelf with energy drinks, followed by some stationeries, travel goods, sanitary stuff, etc. There were sweets that came with toys, a shelf of cup ramen and dried food, a fridge, a freezer. It all looked normal. It was late, so the daily dish and packed lunch section was completely empty. The only special thing about this place was the section full of unpacked vegetables you'd expect to see at a greengrocer's. Maybe all real convenience stores were like this. I was slightly surprised by that, but there weren't any local fine foods or anything. So all in all, it was an unremarkable store. If you ignore the clerk, that is. I took a drink and brought it to the register. Yep, she really was the highlight of this place. What kind of a clerk smokes while dealing with a customer? You're actually buying? Yes, I was actually buying. She was the clerk, and I'd be her god, the customer. 126 yen. She didn't even scan it. This exchange was at the mercy of the clerk. God is dead. Maybe I had to get mad at her? Can I ask something? Huh? I'm kinda lost right now. I quickly turned meek. Where can I find the nearest town? There. Don't you have a map or something? We don't. Haha, man, this woman. I'm not sure I believe that. Convenience stores often get asked for directions. You must have a map handy. That a rule? Well, we don't have one. Go back wherever you came from. I've been lost for a few hours now. I don't think I can keep it up for much longer. Sleep on the floor or something. She had to be joking. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'd rather be on my way. Are you sure you can't help? I thought we had a map. Ugh. Alright. Just wait. The clerk poured out her smoke in the ashtray and went to the staff-only area. She came back in no time. Found it. So she did have a map. Of course she did. Even more ill-tempered than usual, the clerk started giving an explanation. This here's this door. Go to the north of the crossroads. You'll find an overpass soon enough. Cross it. When you come to a fork next to a giant boulder, turn right and head straight. Huh? On this road? What of it? There's nothing there. There's a settlement. It's just not on the map. Do you know any other places? There's Fujiyoshi, but it's 2 hours through a mountain pass. This one's about 30 minutes away. Fujiyoshi seemed to be a village. It didn't look too far away, but the road leading to it was a huge branching mess. It was clearly just a paved mountain path. I'd had enough of those for one day. I'd probably just get lost again. I'll go to that one then. Thank you. Money. Excuse me? You didn't pay for the tea. Here's 500 yen. Why did you put the change in the collection box without asking me? Having too many coins is a pain, ain't it? That was a hell of a line. I casually thanked her, grabbed the plastic bottle of tea — she didn't give me a bag, by the way — and left the store. I drank the tea in the parking lot and looked up at the moon, obscured by clouds, but still bright enough to outshine the light of the convenience store. The clerk put me in a bad mood, though, so I didn't enjoy the sight. I threw the bottle into a nearby trash can and aggressively drove away. Following the directions, I crossed the overpass and arrived at the first fork in the road. The byway she told me about was really narrow. I probably wouldn't have noticed it were it not for the tall boulder standing there like a roadside shrine for some traveler deity. Turning carefully, I got on the road. A minute later, I found myself in an even worse wilderness than before. A veil of dead leaves covered the ground, tall grass sided the path, and the sky above was blocked by overgrown shrubs, making it feel like I was passing a wooden tunnel. The road itself was a huge red flag. It was a wonder why I didn't just turn around. The exchange from before might have pissed me off more than I thought. Still, I really didn't expect the road to just end. It happened about 15 minutes in. The view ahead suddenly turned strangely dark, and a split second later, the bike tipped forward. I reflexively hit the brakes, but it was too late. I started going down a cliff. My bike tilted downwards, and its suspension was put to the greatest test yet as we basically tumbled down to the bottom. The headlights suddenly shone on some dirt and grass. I knew then that I'd be flung out of my seat. Stifling a scream, I tried to work some steering and brake magic to slow down without collapsing. But that was too big a task for a simple road bike. At the bottom of the cliff, it jumped higher than ever before. The suspension couldn't handle the impact, and I was launched into the air. A moment later, I heard a crash and felt an impact, after which came an unpleasant pain. Damn it! An accident where I was flung out like that was a first for me. The launch was really something too. I did a 360 in the air and fell on my back. My breathing stopped for a moment, and the pain was so bad I thought all my bones were shattered. My face and limbs seemed pretty fine at least, though I wasn't sure if that counted as a silver lining. There was grass under my hands. I felt it even through the gloves. That and the smell of green made it pretty clear what I landed on. I pushed down, and my hand sunk. This grass growth was pretty hefty. It was probably the reason why I came out relatively okay. Sure, my joints creaked when I stood up, but aside from that, I was fine. It was really dark, so I couldn't really confirm it, but I was pretty sure I wasn't even bleeding. My bike, however, wasn't nearly as lucky. Oh boy. It was lying on its side a short distance ahead. The engine was still on. The back wheel kept on turning, making an unpleasant fricative noise. Yep, it was busted. I walked up, killed the engine, and took the key. With the headlights off, I was surrounded by absolute darkness, so I just stood and waited until my eyes adjusted. I still couldn't see very clearly, but it looked like this actually wasn't a cliff. I was still on a road. It just wasn't paved beyond this point. Obviously, a road bike stood no chance against an unpaved road. That woman actually tried to kill me. Zigzagging through the trees, I followed the narrow footpath deeper into the forest. I tried getting my bike up and running again, but instantly gave up. It was partially stuck in mud, so there was the risk of it slipping and getting me into another accident. Maybe I had to turn around. The moment I considered that, I thought I saw a faint light ahead. If that woman wasn't lying, this road led to a settlement. Was I close? I reached into my jacket's pocket, took up my phone, and opened it up. As you'd expect, I was out of range. I ran the light app and shone the light to see better. Though weak, it was better than nothing. At the very least, it helped me watch where I was going. I had no idea how long I'd been walking for, but sure enough, I could see a light beyond the shrubs. It was weaker than expected. A flashlight, perhaps? I could hear water, too. I might have been near a river. Hello? I raised my voice. Hello? Anyone there? Still declaring my presence, I walked forward. It was late at night. Were I to bump into someone here, the scare would probably take away a few years of our lives. That was why I figured it was best for us both to let the other know we were here before that happened. However, there was no response. Could they not hear me over the rapids? Hello? I shone my light ahead and realized I'd made it to an opening. Sure enough, there was a river, or a stream, rather. I could see slightly more than I had while surrounded by trees. Straining my eyes, I saw a rocky river beach in the shallows. The light I seen was on the other side. From what I could tell, it was either a lantern or a flashlight, and it was close to the ground. I didn't see any people, though. No one responded to my shouting either. I wasn't excited about it, but I decided to step into the water. The cold water quickly soaked my shoes and socks. I could have taken them off, but I figured that crossing a river barefooted at midnight was a bad idea. But man, was it cold. I put my phone back into my jacket. I needed both my hands free in case I fell. Not stopping or backing down, I walked toward the light. It suddenly became deeper. The water reached my knees now. That was too close for comfort. Feeling the bottom of my toes and balancing myself, I somehow avoided losing my footing. The flow was fiercer than I expected. If I slipped and fell, I'd probably be washed away. It suddenly hit me I was doing something really weird, but it was too late to back down. Putting my hands on the boulders and carefully checking what I was stepping on, I gradually made it to the other side. Then, with an unpleasant, wet sound in my every step, I walked up to the light. I could already see it clearly. Yep, it was a flashlight, lying on the ground for some reason. There wasn't much space here. It was a narrow riverbank with a cliff right beside it. As you'd expect, I didn't see or sense anyone nearby. What the hell? Though old, the flashlight was working fine. The strength of the light told me the battery was pretty full. That meant that someone was actually using this tonight, or rather, until just a few moments ago. That was the most logical conclusion. It obviously wasn't left here yesterday afternoon or evening. And yet, the user was nowhere in sight, and I was near a river. Did something bad happen? Did the flashlight's owner step into the stream and get swept away? That was the most likely and worst possible scenario. However, the flashlight was left there practically buried in the pebbles. It didn't seem like someone placed it there to light things up. It was the dead of night. There was no way you wouldn't notice dropping your flashlight when it was so dark. Right. The fact that a light source was left in a place like this was strange by itself. With that considered, what was going on here? What if someone heard my stupid shouting and decided to lure me in with a light so they could ambush me? Where would they attack from? Above?